रोशनी का कारवां।
This podcast is brought to you by Score Foundation.
ये है रोशनी, रोशनी, रोशनी का कारवां, रोशनी। Eyeway, ये है रोशनी का कारवां।
Hi, my name is George Abraham and welcome to Eyeway Conversations. My guest today is Dr. Ishan Chakraborty, a professor of English from Jadavpur University, Kolkata. Welcome, Ishan. Welcome.
And namaskar to all the listeners. Thank you so much.
Ishan, you are a professor of English at Jadavpur University. I just wanted to begin by asking you any particular reason why you got into academics?
I always wanted to be in touch with studies, critical thinking, imparting critical thoughts among the people from the next generation, exchanging ideas, talking to people, knowing about them. So this is something which I was always interested in. And since academics in a country like India is also largely about speaking, talking, that is also an area of my interest. I wanted to talk to people, literally. So, academics. Yeah.
People who are visually impaired normally tend to choose humanities programs. Any particular reason why you chose English over, say, something like history or political science or economics?
Well, when I was doing my class 11 and 12, I didn't have humanities back then. I had commerce. And this comes to my students as a huge shock. And back then, I was partially sighted back then. I became completely blind when I was 19. So my parents, because I'm the only child of the family, so and also the only son. So again, patriarchy coming in. They wanted their only son to study, if not science, because STEM was completely out of the question because I had my visual disability, etc. So if not science, quote unquote, at least commerce. But that was way back in 2006, 7, 8. That was the period. But then, of course, I was a little bit of a rebel, and I was like, I will not continue with commerce. These figures, additions, 5 lakhs, and also there were many technical difficulties because I was using a magnifying glass to read the fonts of the books of the question papers. So 5 lakh, I'm reading it as 50 lakh. 50,000, I'm reading it as 5 lakh. So, those figures, tallying those figures, graphs in economics, statistics. So all of them were a huge pressure on me. I mean, not the content of my study material, but the form of my study material. That was a sheer horror, as it were. So I was like, no, I'm just going to get out of this space. So I will get into literature. Literature was my favorite.
English literature was not a compromise. This is something that you wanted.
English literature was a compromise. I wanted to read Bangla literature, study Bangla literature.
Okay.
But again, patriarchy coming in. If not science, if not commerce, at least English literature. But I must thank my parents over there because English literature gave me that huge exposure, which I am sure Bangla literature wouldn't have been able to provide me with, right? I mean, that critical lens. But Bangla literature till date remains my first love. And my MPhil was on Rabindranath Tagore, which runs in our veins, in the veins of Bengal. And my PhD was also on Tagore. And my PhD topic was sites, SIGHTS / sites, SITES, sites / sites of visibility and invisibility in the plays of Rabindranath Tagore. So, how Tagore treats the idea of vision and sight in his plays. And in one of the chapters, I dealt with blindness.
Ishan, you mentioned 19. 19 was the age when you
Yeah,
lost your vision completely.
yep,
Before that, you were using a magnifying glass and
yeah,
reading, so on.
yeah.
So, how did life change at 19?
I was ready, kind of mentally prepared, kind of preparing myself. My mom, my mother, she was also kind of preparing herself. My father, he was rather devastated, of course, but we were preparing ourselves as in mentally, but we were yet to get in touch with the huge world of technology which is out there, the new kind of technologies which were coming in, etc. But I was already familiarizing myself with audiobooks, and back then cassettes were available. I was a member of Society for the Visually Handicapped, which was an NGO housed at the Central Library, ground floor of State Central Library in Kolkata. So I was getting audiobooks from there. I was listening to audiobooks and start my also I was taking help from amanuenses to write. So those were things which I was already doing post my school years. So when I was in my first year, my second year. So it's in the middle of my second year that I lost my vision completely. My parents, they wanted to hide my disability. I was absolutely not confident of my situation as a person with partial disability. By the way, I'm also a person with partial deafness. I'm deaf in my left ear. So it was a congenital condition. In my school, there were cases of bullying, harassment, etc., from my classmates, from teachers. Sensitivity, overall awareness was also very low. So that was the period. Those were the experiences I had to go through.
When you turned 19, obviously
Yeah,
when you were partially sighted, I guess
yeah,
you moved around on your own. Your
yeah,
mobility was not
yeah,
probably a challenge. But
yes,
post 19, when you lost your vision
yes,
completely,
yes.
how did you address your issues
That
of
was a huge issue.
mobility? Yeah.
That was, yes, that was a huge issue. The first thing that I had to do was to get mobility training from Ramakrishna Mission, Narendrapur. But this was an indoor mobility training, okay, not an outdoor mobility training.
Right.
How you orient yourself to the space, using a cane, a white cane. That is the first time when I started using a white cane.
Yeah.
I started using a Braille slate, stylus, Brailler,
Right.
because of course when I was in my school, no question of using Braille back then, no
Yeah.
awareness at all,
Right.
because the doctors, they were only bothered about, quote unquote, whether I can be cured or not. No question of rehabilitation. So this was also the time, but my outdoor uh, mobility training remains incomplete. Not only incomplete, it remains. I mean, my outdoor mobility is extremely poor.
Ishan, in this condition, have you found your movement within society,
Yeah,
socially,
yeah,
to make friends, to build relationships,
yeah.
has your disability been a hurdle
Huge
or
challenge. Huge challenge. For example, I want to go out on a date.
yeah,
I can't take my mother to escort me to go out on a date, right?
sure,
And by the way, I am a person. I identify myself as queer,
yeah,
so I am going out on a queer date. Think of
right,
that.
right,
So that itself, the idea itself sounds quite scandalous to the conservative heteropatriarchal society.
yeah,
So that comes up as a huge challenge. So usually it's like what these days what I do and this is something which I must say, I consider myself to be extremely privileged that I got my job at a very, very early age, at a very, when I was just 25,
Yeah.
25 plus, I got my job at Jadavpur University. So I started hiring my own car.
Yeah.
And I go to the place, I hire maybe a driver, a chauffeur, professional chauffeur.
If you know of anyone with vision impairment who needs guidance in living life with blindness, please share the Eyeway National Helpline number 8800 The number is 8800004334.
Let's get back to your academics. You graduated in English literature and then went on to do your master's and MPhil and so on. And then you specialized or you did extensive research in the area of blindness and disability.
Yeah,
Uh, Now, disability studies is pretty new in India, though
yeah,
disability is not very new. It's been around
yeah,
since the ages.
yeah.
But what were the specific areas of interest that you were engaged with when you did your research and PhD?
So there are a few things which I was particularly interested in. Number one, assistive device, not how to use an assistive device. No, not that. But my first publication on disability was on the philosophy of assistive device. What is the philosophy behind uh, not only the production of assistive device, but how are they marketed? How are they sold? What is the language which is used to market and to sell these assistive devices? And then I started working on language and disability, language justice and disability justice. Next, I started doing work with a scholar of mine on audio description in Bangla, audio description of Bangla films.
Yeah,
Okay. The next work I started to do with is experimenting with pedagogy, because disability is usually relegated to one particular course, right?
right.
I understand, that's all right. I'm trying to do the same thing in my own department. Why relegate disability just to this one literature and disability paper? Why? Why relegate it to just one disability studies optional course? Why? Why can't we have disabled philosophers, theoreticians, thinkers, literatures across the curriculum? I'm also encouraging my students to come up with projects. So my students, a couple of them came up with the first Braille map of an entire university campus in India. And that happened last year, November 2024, in Jadavpur University. A student of mine came up with the first Bengali audio described film, Pother Panchali, Raise Pother Panchali. It has been it has been screened at Bits Pilani, it has been screened at Jadavpur University. Another group of students of mine, they came up with, again, this was back in 2020, March 2020, just before the lockdown, if you remember.
Yeah,
The first Braille graffiti in a university campus. The word they came up with is subaltern. They cut tennis balls into halves, and then they cemented those balls on the wall. Also, my activism and my academic activism, let's put it that way, is also about increasing the visibility of disability.
how has technology changed your life personally?
YouTube, 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 and YouTube. And Audible. It has done magic. Uh, for example, if I am prepping myself for a lecture, I go to YouTube. If I am prepping myself for a conference, I go to Audible. I want to entertain myself, YouTube, Audible. I want a quick update on something, I go to Gemini, ChatGPT. Uh, I want someone just sends me an image. I want it to be read out. I usually pester the person by asking him or her to describe it to me. But someone sends an important document, I need to access it. I send it to Gemini and I ask Gemini to read it out to me.
When you teach, obviously you are a professor and you are into academics and you spend a lot of your time interacting with your students. Uh, what are some of the uh, challenges, if you might call it that, that you face, and how do you seek to overcome it or get around it?
What I try to do is I try to keep the class as engaged as possible with the way I speak, with the content, the way I am performing in the class. And by the way, I am by training an elocutionist. Till date, I am practicing elocution, etc. Also, I'm a trainer at one of these organizations. So, to make the class, quote unquote, as theatrical as possible by breaking the fourth wall, right? Bringing the students into my lecture, making them read out a particular section, uh, dividing the class into groups. Maybe I am sitting in one particular group, and there are four groups in total. And now I ask group A to debate with group B, group C to debate with group D. Also, I give, for example, I'm teaching a play. I give one scene to each of these four groups, and I ask them to come up with an analysis in, like, I give them like 20 minutes time. And in the next 40 minutes of the class, I discuss the the ideas that they are coming up with. So, making the class as engaging as possible. I definitely try not to keep my assessments, internal assessments, class tests, not boring. The same, give them a question, make them write an answer. No, not that, but make them do projects, come up with presentations, live presentations in class, submit presentations which we are going to screen in the class. We are going to respond to the presentation. So this is how I try to engage with my student, and this is also a little bit of Crip pedagogy, Crip teaching that I do in my class. Not the chalk and talk method.
It's interesting you bring up the idea of Crip technology, Crip pedagogy, Crip. I was reading in your resume the use of the word Crip.
Yeah.
Can you throw a little light on what exactly is this Crip business?
The word crip, it comes from the word crippled, which was historically used in the derogatory sense and a pejorative sense, but today we are reclaiming it. I am crip. Um, we use it as a noun, we use it as a verb, as an adjective. It is a way of thinking, it is a way of bringing in change, it is a way of um, doing wonders, basically, but bringing in the lens of disability, gender, and diversity.
If you were to use the word Crip in the modern context in a sentence,
Yeah.
how would you do that?
Today, if I am uploading this video podcast on my Facebook profile, I am tripping Facebook. If
Which
I
means
am doing a hashtag on where are audio described Bengali films, that is essentially I am tripping Bengali films, the Bengali film industry,
which means you're bringing in a disability element into the system. Is that what it means?
and making it political.
And making it political. Okay.
To support our work with the blind and visually impaired, you can visit the donate page on our website www.scorefoundation.org.in. Please note www.scorefoundation.org.in.
I believe you were part of the Purple Festival last year.
Yeah.
What was your interest in the Purple Festival?
So
Right.
I was a part of this panel discussion on gender and disability again.
Yep.
And the talk which I delivered over there, it eventually came out in the form of a write up, and it's called Am I Man Enough?
Right.
So it's basically about masculinity and disability. What
Right.
does it mean to be a disabled man?
Right.
Right? Because the society, the heteronormative, the heteropatriarchal normative society, it has certain expectations from a man. You will be able to do certain things. You will be quote unquote aggressive. You will be quote unquote more agile, more upfront. You will be more active, as it were, physically active. You won't be showing your emotions quite often, right? So these are things which we associate with masculinity. It has been traditionally done. But I don't fit into many of these categories. So where do people place me? Where is the disability community thinking of placing me? Where is the queer community thinking of placing me? Where is the heteronormative uh, community thinking of doing with my my presence?
One final question, Ishan, I'd like to ask you is you are at the intersection of disability and of being queer.
Yeah.
So, how do people who are queer, when they know that you are blind, how do
Hmm.
they engage with you? How do they look at you? And how do blind people, when they know that you're queer, how do they look at you?
If I am in a queer gathering, then the situation is completely different. Okay,
Right,
because in a queer gathering, it's also about a show of your queerness, but it
right.
is also about uh, establishing communication through visual contact.
Yeah,
That is not possible for me, and therefore what happens in a queer gathering where there are a whole lot of people and I'm the only disabled person, blind person there, what
yeah,
happens is I feel completely left out.
right,
Okay, but the situation is very different when I am with those same queer people in a 1:1 situation,
right,
because I am getting to communicate with them with my entire body, with my
right,
hand gestures, my lip movements, my voice, the things that I'm, the content of what I'm saying, the way I'm saying, my dress, etc. Okay, so these two things are different. When I come to the disability community, of course, um, um, many of my disabled friends, they have told me, male disabled friends, they have told me, Ishanda, we are also interested in men, but we don't have your privilege. You have, most importantly, you have a command over the colonizer's language.
ah, okay,
And therefore, you can, for example, see, in this podcast, I'm constantly using the word queer
yeah,
because I am in my home. I am using the colonizer's language and I'm using the word queer deliberately to avoid any kind of unnecessary questions from people who are maybe in the next room.
yeah,
Okay, so I have the command over the colonizer's language. I can lead life on my own terms to a large extent because I earn I earn my own living. I'm not answerable to anybody for my dresses, for the way the cosmetics that I'm buying, the bags that I'm buying, the gel polish that I'm buying, the lip gel that I'm buying. I know I don't need to.
So, Ishan, time constraint. I would have to
Yes,
close here, but wonderful talking to you and getting to know you. And the next time I'm in Kolkata, I would love to come and have a cup of coffee with you, if
please,
that is
most
good.
welcome. You're most welcome to Kolkata. Please come down to Kolkata, and I'll also show you around. I mean, I'll show you my university.
Highway, ये है रोशनी का कारवां.
This podcast was brought to you by Score Foundation.
ये है रोशनी, रोशनी, रोशनी का कारवां, रोशनी. Highway, ये है रोशनी का कारवां.